Good morning and a very warm welcome to Wion World is One News. I am Raghavendra Rao and these are the top stories we are tracking for you this morning. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board will be holding an emergency meeting today to discuss its stand on the proposed bill banning instant triple talaq. The meeting comes as the government will table the bill in the Lok Sabha or the lower house of the Indian Parliament next week. The meeting will be attended by 50 members of the Executive Working Committee in Lucknow, who will discuss the board's stand on the bill. China and India agreed on Friday to properly handle and control their disputes and jointly maintain peace and tranquility in their border regions. At the 20th round of talks of special representatives for border issues, Chinese State Councillor Yang Jiechi and Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval exchanged in-depth their opinions on border issues, bilateral ties as well as international and regional issues of mutual interest. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin met Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj for a meeting of India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technological and Cultural Cooperation in New Delhi on Saturday. The meeting would enable the two sides to review the progress achieved by various working groups and subgroups under the IRIGC TEC and also discuss new areas of cooperation that could strengthen bilateral trade and investment. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin also called on Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in New Delhi on the sidelines of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technological and Cultural Cooperation meeting on Saturday. Tibet's government in exile welcomed the Indian government's decision to ease regulations on the stay and travel of its nationals staying in India. Earlier this week, the Interior Ministry issued a circular stating that the regulations pertaining to the renewal of residential or registration certificate for exiled Tibetans living in India have been relaxed. Residents of India's southern coastal Rameshwaram town paid tribute to those killed in a cyclonic storm in 1964. Local fishermen and storm survivors gathered at a disaster memorial to pay homage to the survivors. They lit candles and offered flowers at the memorial to mark the 53rd anniversary of the tragedy. Beggars in Hyderabad are getting employed as computer operators, masseurs, in other tradecraft courtesy Telangana State's Prison Department. The department has taken up this drive under state government's efforts to spruce up the city and make it beggar-free. Occupants of a hostel for visually impaired students in Delhi have been braving cold weather for over a week now as they have been rendered shelterless. This after their accommodation was demolished last week for allegedly encroaching public land. The hostel was home to 20 blind students who were studying in various colleges in the national capital. A restaurant in Mumbai serves a quick lesson of sign language and social inclusion to its customers before their food. This is because the waiters at this restaurant are deaf and mute. The brainchild of entrepreneurs Prashant Issar and Anuj Chauhan, Mirchi and Mime restaurant is staffed by 27 deaf and mute waiters. The menu also explains to customers how they can order food using sign language. Over 5,300 school children came together in New Delhi on Saturday to form a massive human lung to raise awareness about the damage caused by the city's high pollution levels to the residents, creating a world record in the process. The children, brought together by a non-governmental organization, entered the Guinness Book of World Records for creating the largest human image of an organ. Mumbai's iconic dabbawalas or lunchmen have joined hands with a few other stakeholders to start a food bank aimed at fighting hunger and preventing wastage of food. Mumbai Roti Bank or Mumbai Food Bank involves the dabbawalas collecting leftover or excess food from social gatherings and restaurants to distribute among the impoverished. Christmas preparations are on in full swing in India's eastern Assam state. Many people in Guwahati city are busy giving final touches to the theme-based tableaus depicting birth story of Jesus Christ, while others are finalizing their dance, drama and singing performances. The acts are scheduled to be performed on Christmas Eve and early morning on Christmas. Nearly a month after freeing Hafiz Saeed from house arrest, Pakistan government has appealed a court to deny clearance to his party. Pakistan government has appealed to Islamabad High Court to reject Hafiz Saeed-backed Milli Muslim League's plea seeking its registration as a political party. Security was tight around a Methodist church in the southwestern city of Quetta on Saturday, which was the target of a suicide attack less than a week ago as Pakistan's tiny Christian community celebrated the lead-up to Christmas. 9 people were killed and more than 56 injured when 4 attackers broke into the church, which was packed with more than 400 people. As Republicans in the American Congress were due to celebrate at the White House the passage of the historic tax cut legislation, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence was effusive in his praise of U.S. President Donald Trump. At a meeting of Trump's cabinet, Pence said he was deeply humbled to serve Trump, whom he described as a visionary leader. A tropical storm in the southern Philippines triggered mudslides and flash floods that killed 182 people while dozens are still missing. The casualties, most of them caused late on Friday, were all on the main southern island of Mindanao. 3 provinces were hardest hit. Disaster officials said many residents had ignored warnings to leave coastal areas and riverbanks. "37 people are believed to be killed in a fire that engulfed a shopping mall in the southern Philippine city of Davao. A Bureau of Fire Protection commander at the scene said the chances of the 37 surviving were 0. The blaze started at the 4-story NCC mall on Monday morning and people were trapped inside. An aardvark was killed and 4 meerkats are missing after a blaze tore through part of London Zoo early on Saturday, shutting the British capital's popular tourist attraction until further notice as staff assessed the damage. The fire broke out at the zoo's animal adventure section before spreading to an adjacent gift shop and cafe. More than 70 firefighters took 3 hours to bring the fire under control. Catalonia's separatist leader Carles Puigdemont on Saturday called on the Spanish government to allow him to return to Spain in time for the opening session of the Catalan Parliament by January 23rd so that he can become the region's next president. Puigdemont, who ruled in Catalonia until October and faces arrest in Spain for his role in organizing an illegal referendum on independence and proclaiming a Catalan republic, is currently in a self-imposed exile in Belgium. French President Emmanuel Macron has announced an additional 10 million euros to help educate girls in Niger, one of the priorities promoted by country's president to curb migration. This sum is on top of 15 million euros already invested by France to help education in Niger. In addition, Paris pledged in December to spend 400 million euros between 2017 and 2021 to support projects other in Niger. Palestinians in Gaza City on Saturday attended a funeral procession for a demonstrator who was shot dead in clashes with Israeli troops during protests over U.S. President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Israeli gunfire killed 2 Palestinians on Friday in a confrontation in the southern Gaza Strip, putting the number of wounded at 120. Palestinian protesters, some festively dressed as Santa Claus, clashed on Saturday with Israeli security forces in Bethlehem. This a day before the beginning of Christmas celebrations in the West Bank city, revered as the birthplace of Jesus. Holding Palestinian flags, the demonstrators who gathered at Israeli military tower to protest against US President Donald Trump's decision were pushed by the soldiers, who also used stun grenades and tear gas to disperse the protest. More than 200 protesters, mostly Palestinians living in Germany, marched in Berlin against US President Donald Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Chairman of the Democratic Committee of Palestine said they want a democratic solution for their problem. An Israeli court freed without charge 3 Turks who had been arrested on suspicion of assaulting police outside a Jerusalem holy site contested by Jews and Muslims. The men, described by police as tourists, were taken into custody on Friday as Israel confronted a weekly surge in protests against US President Donald Trump's December 6 recognition of Jerusalem as its capital. Peruvian President Pablo Kuczynski survived an impeachment vote after the Congress failed to pass a motion against him over graft allegations. The motion failed to gain enough votes, with 79 in favor, 19 against and 21 abstentions after more than 10 hours of debate by lawmakers in the session after the Congress debate. Kuczynski said he will open new chapter of reconciliation and reconstruction of Peru. A Pennsylvania state police trooper was wounded in an exchange of gunfire with a suspect in downtown Harrisburg. This after the shooter allegedly appeared to target police officers in multiple locations in the Pennsylvania city. The suspect has been killed. Russia's ruling party, United Russia, wants the ultimate victory of President Vladimir Putin at the presidential election in March 2018. Party head and Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said the party would give Putin all possible support now and in the future. Putin is widely expected to win the 2018 election and secure his 4th 6-year stint as president. The Russian Communist Party on Saturday unexpectedly dropped its veteran leader Gennady Zyuganov as its presidential candidate to challenge President Vladimir Putin next year, choosing instead a largely unknown businessman with links to the farm sector. Zyuganov is expected to contest his 6th consecutive presidential election next March. Russian President Vladimir Putin played a hockey match in the Red Square alongside the country's defense minister Sergei Shoigu late on Friday. The Kremlin press service wrote about the game of the night Hockey League on its official website. However, it was unclear how many goals the Russian leader managed to score. The league was founded in 2011 during Putin's term as a prime minister and received its name from the timing of their games, usually fairly late due to the president's working schedule. Dozens of people gathered outside Beirut's National Museum on Saturday to light candles for a British woman and 3 Arab women murdered in the past week in Lebanon. The killing of the British embassy worker Rebecca Dykes last week has sparked extensive media coverage in Lebanon, prompting activists to press for more attention to be given to widespread violence against women. China launched a land exploration satellite into orbit from the Wion Satellite Launch Center in the Gobi Desert on Saturday. The satellite is mainly used for remote sensing, exploration of land resources. A Long March 2D rocket carried inside the satellite into the space. The launch was the 259th mission of the Long March rocket series. Fishermen in northeast China's Jilin province started to harvest bighead carps from frozen Chagan Lake, marking the beginning of the annual winter fishing season. Dressed in fur hats and white sheepskin coats, the fishermen drilled holes into the thick ice and fished using a traditional method, just as their ancestors did hundreds of years ago to survive the long, cold winter. Winters arrived in Buffalo, New York, bringing snow and icy conditions to that city and other parts of the northeast United States in time for the holiday weekend. Temperatures are expected to hover just under the freezing mark for the rest of the day. A park in Beijing was filled with Santas on Saturday as hundreds participated in a fun run ahead of Christmas Eve. With white beards, red suits and hats smoothly distributed by organizers, runners made their way around the 6-kilometer route in the park, collecting stickers along the way. Those who collected more than 6 were awarded medals at the finish line. Hundreds of Santa Clauses flooded the center of Minsk on Saturday, bringing the spirit of New Year into Belarus. Around 800 people dressed as Father Frost and his female companion. The characters, who symbolize end of the year celebrations for the people of Belarus, marched through the city singing New Year songs and bringing cheer to the spectators. In the Finnish village of Rovaniemi, its most famous resident, Santa Claus began his annual round the world tour, marking for many the start of Christmas celebrations. Although the myth of Father Christmas is steeped in tradition, Santa showed himself to be a thoroughly modern man, his trip powered by renewable reindeers to make sure it's carbon footprint free. The Big Ben bell in the British Parliament's famous clock tower chimed after months of silence on Saturday to celebrate Christmas season. The great bell, which ceased its regular bongs at noon on August 21st, falling silent for most of the next 4 years while renovation works were carried out, will resume service until 1 p.m. on New Year's Day. The Postona Cave in Slovenia staged its traditional living nativity display, creating the magic of Christmas in a nature-made setting that is one of the country's top tourist attractions. The giant limestone cave, which was formed over millions of years and was made famous in the early 19th century, is about 24 kilometers long, with more than 5 kilometers of path open to visitors, served by an underground train.